If Brendan Fevola had taken the pictures, it may have made the list. I'm sure Nick Riewoldt won't mind, but the Dicky League scandal doesn't make the Goodall's AFL top 10 in 2010. It just isn't big enough. There was no shortage of front-page AFL headlines in 2010. However, two genuine good news stories also get a run. Of course, I mean the story wasn't big enough. Thank you for that, Andrew. Now, speaking of big, there is no larger name in Australian sport than Andrew Gaze, while Fairfax columnist Richard Hinds is an intellectual giant.
Hey, just before we get stuck into this, Mark, what is going on with the shirt? I mean, is it $1 a day? Is this like School Friday where we've got to tip in $1 and it's a free? Because that is... Well, that is terrible.
Festive season, Andrew.
Mate, there's nothing festive about that shirt, my friend.
Get into the spirit.
This is festive. You get red.
Season is all that it is. Now, let's get into the business. Richard, your 3, 2 and 1 AFL stories.
Okay, my one voter was Izzy Falou going to Greater Western Sydney. If you didn't think they were serious about making this team work out in the western burbs of Sydney, paying several million for a bloke who hadn't even kicked a footy, trialling him in a secret little location out in the bush where some backpacker found them, that's getting serious. Yes. So there's no doubt at all about their intentions. Whether he can play or not, we don't know.
Can he play quickly, Drewy?
I'm not
enough
sure.
Said.
No.
2 votes, Richard.
My 2, Gary Ablett going to the Gold Coast. I mean, for the story itself, best player in the comp goes to a new club, but what it means for the psyche of the competition, I think it's going to have a real trickle-on effect when we bring in free agency on top of Ablett going. You've already got players like Dane Swan saying, not being too equivocal about wanting to go to GWS. It's, I think it's going to change the whole psyche of the transfer market.
Okay, getting a nod there. And your 3 votes?
Drawn grand final. Game itself, thriller, last kick, the great marks, but the 5 minutes afterwards, the confusion, the people in the stands, do I get a ticket for next week? Which room? The rooms are flooded. Nick Maxwell losing his nana about the draw. I thought that was the best part for me in a way, that whole just 5 minutes after the game. It was amazing.
Now, Andrew Gaze, your 3, 2 and 1, the best 3 stories, AFL stories of 2010.
Well, the best AFL stories. Number 3, I'm running with the Heath Shaw smother in the grand final. When you're looking for a defining moment and something that'll be replayed forever and a day, the effort and the determination in that particular play is something that I think will be a trademark of the grand final.
Yep.
So that's my...
so that's your 3 votes. So you've gone the other way. That's your 3 and your 2 votes?
That is the 3 votes. And we just work our way down there from the 2 votes. The 2 votes...
No Andrew Demetrio.
I've gone with the Ben Cousins situation. We saw the documentary and just not so much as being a football story, but a story that I guess the community has to deal with and the social ramifications. And also one of the heroes in that, I think, was his dad, Brian Cousins, and the way he handled that whole situation, I thought almost transcended football, but it came from a football environment. And lastly, on my number 1, which I thought was the top one, but is actually the third place vote, is the James Podsiadly. When we talk about football these days, usually when someone gets to that 28 plus, you're talking about the end of their career. And I was always sort of surprised that we don't sort of put greater weight on experience and those types of things. And finally to get someone that's come through who, he's knocked on more doors than the Mormons, and he's been everywhere, been at every club, finally get an opportunity at 28 years of age, I thought was a fantastic story.
That was good, wasn't it, Richard? It's one of those sort of feel-good stories that although it's about one club, and Geelong certainly benefited from it, was amazing. The reigning premier was a better side for a 28-year-old. He almost changed them completely. We know they didn't go into cash in, but it was just good that didn't become great, but we sort of wish it did.
Yeah, and again, something that's got a flow-on effect because now they're all going through the scrap heap. What are the gems that we can find in here? It's like current affairs reporters going through people's rubbish bins looking for gold. It's... They're out there. I
don't think you're underselling it. It didn't become great. I think it did become great.
Okay.
What's your measurement? I think in his story alone was a great story.
Well, Michael Buller was another one, wasn't he? That unfortunately became a bad news story because he broke his leg. But halfway through the year, people were saying he might have been leading the Brownlow, and in fact, he had plenty of Brownlow votes, and I reckon would have been an All-Australian in his debut year at age 23, 24.
Yes.
Same deal.
No doubt.
So yeah, maybe there's hope for all of us.
That's
Andrew.
it.
Now, maybe not. My 3, 2, and 1. I'll start with the 1 vote, Andrew, because that's the way we rehearsed it. Is Acker being sacked? Jason Akermanis, it's amazing, isn't it? It's fine when he can get a kick, but that's what it was all about. When he couldn't get the pill anymore, they'd had enough and they kicked him out. We also got a little bit of Jason Akermanis explaining who he likes to shower with as well during the year. So he presented plenty of headlines as normal. The drawn grand final, it's hard to beat as the number 1, of course, but it gets my 2 votes, the drawn GF. A wonderful game for lots of reasons, and as Richard said, everything that occurred after it, and as Drew Bagger so rightly said, the Heath Shaw moment in the replay, that will be remembered just as much. And Richard Hinds touched on where I'm giving the 3 votes, but it's a combination of what you mentioned there with Gary Ablett and another bloke called Mark Bomber Thompson, the coach of the Cats. Now, the fact that the 2 of those blokes have departed is unthinkable. Let's go back to when Geelong did win the flag. 1,000,000 to 1 to say that arguably the greatest player the club's ever had and arguably the greatest coach the club's ever had will both be gone 12 months later. And by the way, they won't have spoken to each other for the bulk of 2010. An incredible story because it sort of crept up on us a bit. I think at times we didn't realise the importance and the relevance, and maybe in years to come we'll look back and go, how did that happen? Just incredible.
Oh, no doubt. And I think that the biggest surprise to me is, as you mentioned, is the revelation that they really didn't get along.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that is actual fact, who knows? But
no, I think that's right. And it's interesting, people were talking during the year, it's not having an effect, they're winning games, they're doing well. Well, hello, if the best player in the team not talking to the coach is that not having an effect, I don't know what does. You know?
And when you talk about those little, at the very top, the margin for error is so small, and those little things that can determine a winner or loss. And who knows? It's all speculative, but who's to say that wasn't a pretty important fact in them not reaching another grand final?
Yeah, I think teams are going to have to learn how to handle these transitions out, like they do in basketball or they do in the NRL, where players know they're going. They're going to have to learn to cope with this because it's going to happen more with free agency when it comes in.
The full list includes a couple of other stories that could have made the top 5, including Hurd returns. Part of the Bomber Thompson story, of course, is that now he is at Essendon, and part of the Hurd return story, a massive part, is the fact that Matthew Knights was sacked. A coach being sacked, in fact 2 coaches were sacked this year, don't really make the top 10. Hello to Mark Williams if he's listening and watching. Speaking of coaches, Malthouse v Milne, again, that's one that Mick got away with. Not only did he accuse Stephen Milne of doing something in the heat of battle that was not nice, he lied about it blatantly, like openly. Let's get that right, I think was his quote afterwards when quizzed on it.
Yeah, he was caught holding the ball, no doubt about that. And then he wrote a column making some Churchillian references to his leadership and so forth, and keeping things in the battle. I don't know where he got away with that one, but winning the flag gets away with a lot of evils later in the year. We've all forgotten about that. He's a master coach now, isn't he?
And you'll see Brendan Fevola's name there, of course. No one story in particular, just Brendan, full stop. He's always going to make those lists while he goes around. They're just any number of stories with Fev. Well done, mate. And Riewoldt, not Nick but Jack, a positive story, a good news story. His season in totality, All-Australian, led the goal kicking, but the day he kicked 10 against the Eagles to ignite the Tigers, that was just special, and that was a reminder of why we love the game.
Yeah, there's nothing better when Richmond get up. They get these bounces and they just go berserk. I love their fans, I love their passion, and I love their expectations for next season, but they're high.
So there you have it. That is the top 10 for 2010 from the Good Oil. Now, you can get involved and join the conversation via the Twitter hashtag GoodOilTV or email couchcritic@goodoiltv.com. Your own opinions via the home or phone video are especially welcome. What are you doing? And remember, there are a whole host of videos of sports of all sorts on our website, www.goodoiltv.com. Do I recall, but only a few moments ago, you two blokes had to go at my shirt?
Don't like the hat? It's Christmas, Mark. Come on, it's not Hawaiian surf
The
season.
hat's okay. What is that?
Got to get in the festive season. Andrew Rudolph Gaze, I think I'm referred to. So just going to be running the big fella around in a few days' time.
Rudolph's your middle name, is it?
That's it. That's the one.
You sure it's not Bozo the Clown?
Hey, Rudolph, he's got a big job ahead of him. So let's give him some support.
Well, on that point, let's thank all the viewers of the Good Oil
Yes.
and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, particularly to your families as well as you two. You want to start singing Jingle Bells as we say goodbye, or what's next?
Rudolph the red-nosed
I knew we
reindeer.
would thank you, Richard. Thank you, Trish.
Heidi knows.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, jeez.
And bye for now.